Hello. I've been working on this scratch-built radio control transmitter lately, and I took it out for its first test run today, so I thought I'd make a video to show you what it's all about and how the trial went. So I'm using an Odroid inside here instead of Arduino this time, and that gives me much more processing power and memory. So one thing I wanted to try doing was record all the locations that I was getting from the radio control car instead of just the current position, which was all I could really do before. And I thought I might try using that to make a trail of breadcrumbs so that the car could drive back to where it came from. Instead of returning to home in a straight line, it could like retrace its steps. I didn't really get that far today, and to be honest, there's already quite a few things about this transmitter that are kind of a pain in the butt. So I'm not sure how much further I will take this form of the transmitter. But the first thing that's kind of a pain in the butt is that to get anything to show on the screen, we need an HDMI connection, and the only cable at the moment that I have is a straight one. You can get L-shaped ones which fit in there nicely. Hang on, let's have a quick look at this thing first. So we have the joysticks. I added buttons up here for mouse buttons, and a switch up here for power, and an antenna mount. And up the top we have inputs for power here, so I can run it either on battery or from mains power. This is 12 volts. HDMI input, and then there's VGA and also AV input, so you can switch to AV input on the screen and look at your FPV screen if you have a FPV receiver here. And these are just the buttons for the on-screen display settings for the monitor. And over here we have a little battery balance lead poking out, and that's just to make sure I don't run the battery down to kill it. So let's plug that in. And on the bottom we have the Odroid poking out a little bit there, so you can see there's the USB plugs there. There's actually 3, but I've only cut the wood away enough to use 2 of them. So that's the wireless mouse and the Ethernet, or wireless LAN, I guess. And also HDMI plug in there. As far as what's inside it, it's kind of complicated, so I won't really go into all the details, but I took some photos while I was building it, so I'll just have a look at those. This is the basic layout, and there's a couple of holes there for the ribbons of the screen to slide through, and I just hot glued those in place so that they wouldn't slide around, and also put these wooden frames around with suitable holes cut in them for the bottom one, and they make sure it doesn't move around as well. Now, just by chance, it happened that the piece that the ribbon plugs into, when I folded the ribbon back like that, fit exactly onto the top edge of the transmitter, so that was quite lucky. The joysticks, I put those on a separate piece of wood because I thought I might like to shift them later, so they're out on the sides at the moment, which is okay, but I thought they might be better at the bottom or the top maybe instead, but I think I'll just leave them there. So cut holes for those and put them on there, and yeah, just sort of cut pieces of wood and gouges out of them like this to fit things in. This is the basic layout. This thing here is the touch screen sensor thingy that I'm not using, mainly because I've set up the mouse cursor so that I don't really need it, but also because it's not very good. You have to press really, really hard to get any touches to be detected, and the positions are not very accurate, and also it's really, really hard to drag a touch. So it's okay for presses, I think, if you're just simply pushing a button, but if you're trying to drag something like draw a line or something like that, it's just not going to work. and I just put a couple of pieces of wood here to leave some space, and then I stuck the Odroid on here inside the 3D printed case that Christian made. It was quite a convenient little mounting thing. And I soldered the connections directly onto the bottom of the pin headers. So this is the SPI here, and this is the what is that? I think it's the RX and TX of the UART connection, and that's what I originally wanted to do. So that's the 3D printed case there, and I found a couple of points on here too. This is positive power, and that's just ground. So this is the way that it can be powered either by battery or by the mains. So this is where the mains plug plugs in, and it also goes straight to the battery if the battery is connected. So either can work. So what I wanted to do, oh yeah, and for the Odroid power I just soldered directly onto here. It's a bit ghetto, but it works in there. So that's negative and positive. Anyway, what I wanted to do for the connections of this was to have the Odroid SPI here talking directly to the RF24 module, and I wanted to use an Arduino Pro Mini like this purely for input from the joysticks, because there's no analog inputs on the Odroid, unfortunately. So all it's doing at the moment is taking input from the joysticks and the buttons up there, the left and right mouse buttons. So that was their plan, and it's already getting quite a mess, as you can see. There's it's a bit unfortunate that the Odroid is 1.8 volts everywhere, so that means I needed a bunch of level shifters like this all over the place to get anything done. But more than that, what I found is that the SPI that I wanted to use and that I made such a big deal out about in one of my earlier videos, and I spent probably a day and a half getting the software libraries organized for that, and it worked great until I connected the RX and TX pins on here for the Pro Mini to use. And when I did that, all of a sudden the SPI kind of stopped working. It worked a little bit occasionally, intermittently, but it wasn't reliable by any means. And it took me a while to figure that out, actually. And so I had to retrace my steps, and finally I figured out that connecting the RX on here was the cause of it. So I revised everything, and what I'm doing now is I'm not using the SPI on the Odroid at all. What I'm doing is going back to what I've been doing in the past, which was using the Pro Mini and connecting the RF24 module here onto that, and using the SPI of the Pro Mini, and then all of the information that goes anywhere from the Odroid is coming out the RX and TX pins on here and going into the RX TX pins on here. So that means that the Pro Mini is doing all of the radio transmission both ways, and it's doing the joysticks and the mouse button and everything as well. So it's quite a bit of traffic because it has to feed back the GPS coordinates and everything. And it took me quite a while to get that working as well. There seems to be only a few combinations of baud rates that would work, and I also had to slow my program down. So the program that's running on the Odroid to do all this has a 10 millisecond sleep in it, which is not very nice. I didn't want to do that, but it's the only way I could get any communication to work. So as you can see, there's little problems one after another start to pile up like this, and it's just sort of I'm not really too happy with it overall, but it works for the most part. Anyway, what else have we got here? So yeah, the space over here is for battery, and I'm using a big LiPo battery there, and yeah, that's about it. So let's just plug it in. Okay, I've zoomed you in a little bit so you can see better. So when I turn it on, it takes about 10 to 12 seconds or so to start up properly. Oh, this is awkward, isn't it? But basically it starts up in Ubuntu, and we have a full Ubuntu desktop here. Now when I move the mouse, you'll see that when I move the joystick, you'll see that the mouse cursor moves. And if I click on something up here, we can, for example, use the mouse to move things around like this. So that lets me start up programs that are in the menu, but there's no keyboard, so I can't really do a whole lot of complicated things. But the important thing is that my mouse cursor moving program has already started up when the OS starts. So we don't actually need to have the screen on at all just to do basic radio control. Now over here, I don't know if you can hear that in the background, but I actually have this already connected to the car that I've been driving. And I made a video on this a while ago, but I won't go over the details. But basically this is an Arduino on the back of this car, and there's a GPS sensor up here, and that is sending GPS locations of where the car is back to the transmitter. So to store that information, I'm actually writing it to a MySQL database, and to look at it, instead of using a C++ program with OpenGL display and stuff like I was planning to, what I decided to do was try it with JavaScript in a web browser, which I just started up, okay. And we can look at, oh man, it's a little bit hard to get a good view without the ceiling light whiting things out. But you can see here a view on the map, and I've offset this a bit from my current location so that it shows the location at the river. And you should be able to see every now and then that moves. Especially if I drive the car a little bit, it tends to move a little bit. Come on. Well, of course it's not going to do it now that I'm trying to show you, is it? But what we have here, this yellow line, is the recorded positions that the car has been while I was talking so far, and the little circle is where it is now. So it's just a display like that. Now of course you need the internet to see this map, and one thing I forgot to do when I went down there is I was going to use my phone, which has a Wi-Fi hotspot in it, and I was going to use the Wi-Fi hotspot on here to access the internet on the transmitter so I could see this map. But unfortunately I forgot to type in the Wi-Fi password for my phone before I went down there, so all I could see was this yellow line surrounded by image not found displays. But it was enough to let me see what I was doing. By the way, because this is running in a web server there, I can look on my phone and or any device that's connected to the same subnet that the transmitter is on, and I can look at this. I can look at the same web page and I'll see the same display there. Actually, it's a little bit easier to see on this, isn't it? But basically that's what we're looking at. So any number of devices can access the web server on the transmitter to see the current location. So I could just turn this screen off, just unplug the HDMI and not use it, and look at it from an external viewer like this. Would work just as well. It's quite interesting, isn't it? Anyway, so it's not really too much more to explain. I'm not sure why this isn't moving. Okay, I restarted the car and it looks like we're getting something a little bit more sensible now. So you can see it's moving a little bit every now and then, like that. So it's not actually moving. So the movement that we're seeing here is just the inaccuracy of the GPS. But when I show you the next part, it'll be obvious how it is actually working properly. So yeah, there's quite a few problems with this though. You'll see in a minute when I show you the rest of the footage some of the other problems, but one thing I didn't mention in the video that I shot earlier today was that see how I'm moving the mouse around like that, and you can hear the steering of the car going in the background maybe. The problem with this is that the connection is using ACK payloads, and the program that's moving the mouse here is the same program that's doing all the radio transmission. And if the car is off, the ACK payloads don't come back and it gets very slow and it basically just doesn't work. So what that means is you have to have the car or the quadcopter or whatever it is you're trying to control has to be turned on and in range for this mouse to work. So it's quite a weak point, that one. It didn't bother me today, but it's not a very good thing to be, not a very good way to have it set up. Anyway, let's get on with the rest of the video. So what I'll do is I'll show you, I'll play a replay of this line being drawn as I recorded it today, and I'll just stop it every now and then and put in some video from where I was at that point and some comments that I had to make, or maybe just some random video that I shot at that point. So anyway, that's what the rest of this video will be about. Well, I came down here and I'm doing some testing, but problem is, well, one problem is I didn't bring my keyboard, so I can't type in. I completely forgot about this, but I haven't typed in the Wi-Fi password for my phone, so I can't access the internet on here at the moment. However, it can still write to its own database to record the locations. So I'm just driving around a little bit here, and as you can see, I get this all in the same shot. You should see it's driving around here a little bit slow. It stutters every now and then, and also stops. That's the other problem that I'm having at the moment. For some reason, one of these Arduinos on here has a bad connection, I think. And it likes to reset itself every now and then. No. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, so that's pretty annoying, but it's not really a problem with the transmitter. Anyway, so this is a bit of a featureless spot to be driving around on. So I'll go somewhere where there's some actual features on the ground, like the baseball courts or the soccer courts or somewhere, and that way we can check how well the recorded positions that I'm getting from this is matching up with the map. Oh, and of course I was going to show you what's on here, but you can't see a damn thing. That's the other problem. Even when I shade it, it's almost impossible to see anything. So we need a much brighter screen than this to be any use, I think. Okay, let's see how this goes with the quadcopter. It's a bit windy again today. It just seems to be windy every day lately. It's really annoying. Anyway. Oh, antenna is not on. Hold on a minute. And you'll notice I'm not using the HDMI cable at the moment because it's not really necessary if all you want to do is use it as a normal transmitter. Anyway, I think we're good to go now. Well, flies alright. It's I feel confident enough, but it's not perfect. There's a little sort of a jitter every couple of seconds, or every maybe 3 or 4 seconds. There's a sort of a little bit of a laggy kind of feeling. So it's definitely not as good as with the regular Arduino at the moment, unfortunately. But still, it's still fun to fly.